appropriately twisted route, it turns out that President Bush could bring peace in our time, because in our #1 story in the countdown, we have evidence that one foreign leader reined in another foreign leader by pointing to the example set by our president and warning of the consequences if that example were actually to be repeated. President Bush today welcomed the group of 20 heads of state representing 90% of the world's economy, a two-day summit on the global economic crisis. Meantime, the London Times disclosed a telling conversation between President Nicolas Sarkozy of France and the Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin from August 12th. It was 4 days after Russia had invaded the Republic of Georgia with Russian tanks just 30 miles from the capital, Tbilisi. Obviously, there's been later reporting that perhaps Georgia provoked all this. In any event, Mr. Sarkozy, in Moscow to broker a ceasefire, told the Russian Prime Minister that the world would not countenance the overthrow of the Georgian government. According to Sarkozy's chief diplomatic advisor, Mr. Putin scoffed, describing what he would do to the Georgian president, quoting him here, "I am going to hang Saakashvili by the balls," unquote. Mr. Sarkozy thought he had misheard, according to the Times. "Hang him?" he asked. "Why not?" Putin answered. "The Americans hanged Saddam Hussein." And that is where the evidently deft President Sarkozy found his Gallic opening. "Yes," he said, "but do you want to end up like Bush?" Mr. Putin was said to be momentarily silent and then replied, "Ah, you have scored a point there." The story serves as another reminder that when President Bush supposedly looked into Putin's soul back in 2001, he was fooled. Let's bring in the associate editor and columnist of the Washington Post, MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson. Good evening, Gene.
Good to talk to you, Keith.
So has President Sarkozy stumbled over the golden egg of diplomatic persuasion in WWWD? What would W do, and do the opposite?
Yeah, I don't know if that would work going forward. I mean, what fascinates me is, do these guys really talk like that?
Yes.
Don't put that bug in your mouth. You'll end up looking like Joey over there. You don't want to look like Joey. It's like a grade school thing almost, the way they talk to each other. But it's an amazing conversation and does speak to the impact that the President Bush has had on modern diplomacy.
Well, never mind that, but also this exchange as it was reported by the envoy, which was, "Yes, but do you want to end up like Bush?" And the answer, "Ah, you have scored a point there." This could be, this could be I don't know who from the 18th. It could be Bismarck talking to somebody, Louis Napoleon, or I may have my years wrong on that, but you know what I'm saying. It's such stilted. But even an anecdote is stilted.
Right, Disraeli countered.
Yes.
But do you want to end up looking like Bush? Yes.
Right. Well, that depends on whether I embrace your principles or your I don't know. We won't go the rest of his original joke.
We won't go there.
The president back in this century, the president hosts the G20 this weekend. But at this point, is there much of anything he can do to buff up his world image as he's essentially heading for the door?
No, his world image is what it is, and it is what it's going to be for the foreseeable future. He is convinced that history will vindicate him. And so I don't know if you or I will be around to see that day. I tend to doubt that I will, but he firmly believes that it's certainly not going to improve in the near future, that's for sure. And he's not going to have any big impact with I mean, he's the lamest of lame ducks, let's be honest.
The British Prime Minister, Mr. Brown, recently said that Obama's election had changed people's views of America internationally. It's an obvious point, obviously, but how true can it be because of the Bush baggage? How much of that sort of sits in the room with Obama, no matter how glittering he might appear to our international friends?
It actually does change America's image substantially among many populations in the world, and among some world leaders too. There are an entire diplomatic corps that had a problem with the Bush administration and its approach to diplomacy and its approach to world affairs. But the bigger impact is on the street, not just the streets of Paris and Berlin, but the streets of Rabat and Beirut and many cities around the world. So there's an opportunity there. When you get down to national interest questions, when governments perceive something in their national interest, in that instance, it doesn't matter whether it's George Bush or Barack Obama. If they decide they need to be obstreperous about something, they will continue to be obstreperous.
The New York Times reported today that the foreign heads of state have done more than congratulating President-elect, that they're trying to engage him already on policy. The lame duckness that you described here, is he even beyond lame duck because the rest of the world is trying to march without him?
I think what's disturbing, I think, frankly, to a lot of other world leaders is the sense that he's kind of tuned out. Now, it's not just circumstances that made him a lame duck, but the question is, are there any initiatives yet to come out of the Bush administration? The answer probably is no. And so I think these other world leaders realize they can't do anything with the president-elect, but they can start laying the groundwork and get ready to go after the inauguration.
You have made a point there. Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post, the Diplomatic Corps, and MSNBC. Thanks, Gene. Have a good weekend.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. That's Count.